and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite authors. This is actually inspired by BooksandLala. She did a video a few weeks ago about talking about her favorite authors and kind of how she determines like when an author becomes a favorite. So for me, I'm going to first start out with talking about how I determine if someone is like a favorite author. So for me, there has to be 3 books involved, and I need to give them at least 4 or 5 stars. I need to have given you at least 1 5-star. That's a requirement, base requirement. And then I need to have at least 2 more that are 4 or 5. And that is like a little bit subjective. It has to be like a good 4. Like it's a 4, 5, and a 5. Solid. But sometimes you can get admitted into my favorite author ranking with just a 5 and 2 4s. You know? Those 3 books need to be from at least 2 different series. So like, I love the Discovery of Witches series by Deborah Harkness, but I wouldn't consider her a favorite author because that's the only series I've read from her. I think it's the only fiction series she's written. She's also like a PhD, so she's written like academic historical texts. I haven't read any of those, nor do I plan on it because why? So those are kind of the rules. Okay, great. And so for me, in order to get a 5-star, most of the time I have to have like a pretty emotional connection to something. So I think that's kind of like the big differentiator for me between like a 4.5, 4-star and a 5-star is like that emotional, really personal connection. Also, for me, I haven't only been really tracking my reading and thinking about things on a 5-star scale for the past couple years. I like didn't do it in college and kind of only got back into reading like 2018, 2019. And so I don't have kind of the problem that Kayla was running into where she had like books from high school that she considered favorites that weren't favorites anymore. Because I do think there needs to be an element of like, am I still excited for the stuff that they're currently putting out? And for all of these, all of the things that I've given like 5 stars are recent enough where I feel comfortable saying like, yes, I'm still excited. But I do think you can be removed from my like favorite author list if the stuff that you're putting out kind of currently isn't what I want to read anymore. Or if I were to go back and read things, the ratings would get dropped, you know? But I don't know. I haven't come across that yet. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I'm going to go through my favorite authors, and I'm going to talk about my favorite authors and my favorite books by them, if they had any misses. The first one on this list is my newest addition to the favorite author ranking because I only read my first book from her last October, and that is Mariana Zapata. I just like adore her romances. She has such a unique way of writing romance, and they're these chunky boys. They're super slow burn. When I heard about them, I was like, that sounds literally terrible, but I've just like adored most of the books I've read from her. They've mostly been 4 or 5 stars. I have a couple that I didn't love. I hated Lingus, her first book. Didn't love Dear Erin, but besides that, I think they've all been 4 or 5 stars. Okay, these are my favorites, and we'll try to do them in order. My favorite is From Lukov with Love. My second favorite is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. And then I think it's Wait For It, then All Roads, then Colty, then Luna and the Lie, then Underlock. But that could be fake. I would have to like check and like make sure. Some of them also get scrambled because all of her books are very similar. It's like Grumpy Man, younger by about a decade, woman, young, 20-somethings, bubbly, happy, little. And then they fall in love. And they kiss at like the 75% mark. They like profess their deep, profound feelings for each other at like the 90% mark. And I'm all for it. What would I like to see from Mariana Zapata moving forward? Exactly those books. Pop out one a year, which I think is her typical pattern of just like a grumpy man and a girl she falls in love with. I will eat them up. I will eat them up. She could just go in and change the characters' names, change a couple settings details. I'll read them again. I'm a sucker for them. They're just like the dopamine receptors in my brain. Love them. So she's my first favorite author. And a new one because I just read her book recently. My next favorite, and this is Emily Henry. I read Beach Read in January of 2020? No, I read Beach Read in January of 2021, and I fell in love with it. I read it 3 times last year, maybe 4. I just thought she did such a brilliant job with this book. I had heard a lot of buzz about it, and it lived up to like every moment of the hype. And so I went through and read her entire backlist. I've read every single book that Emily Henry has put out. I have not read Book Lovers yet, her new book that's releasing in May, but I am eagerly awaiting. We'll read it as soon as it hits shelves. I have also like imprinted, I think I read Beach Read in a time that it was just like my frontal lobe was still going through a growth spurt. I know I'm old. My brain isn't growing anymore, but I like imprinted on her like a baby duckling. I don't know, maybe it's like her social media presence, but I do feel like we are close personal friends. I call her M. Hen. will read her books till like the end of time, imprinted on her. Just like I have a personal connection with Emily Henry, not a real one, just an imagined one in my head. So my favorites from her are Beach Read, of course. I also loved Hello Girls, brilliant. The Love That Split the World, A Million Junes, The People We Meet on Vacation. So out of her 6 books, 5 of them are 4 or 5 stars. I didn't love The Sky, When the Sky Fell on Splendor, which I think was her last YA release. I didn't love it. It wasn't terrible. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars, but it just wasn't my favorite. But she is amazing. What would I like to see from her moving forward? Of course, I'm like happy with her adult romances. They're gorgeous. They're brilliant. She's so smart. She's the queen. But I would love to see her YA books. A lot of them are like magical realism. Like there's just like little sprinkles of magic, like A Million Junes, Love That Split the World, and The Sky Over Splendor all have like a little bit of magic in them. I would love to see that in the adult setting. Like I would love her to sprinkle some of that magical realism in the adult world. I think it would be gorgeous. So that's what I would love to see from Miss M. Hen. My next favorite is Miss Sarah J. Maas. I love Throne of Glass. I enjoyed ACOTAR, but I loved Throne of Glass. I wasn't sold on ACOTAR until book 3. And I think a lot of people like hate on book 3, but for me, the way she brought the whole series together in book 3 was just like outstanding. Couldn't even deal with how beautifully done and smart it was. I loved it. But Throne of Glass is really what like sold it for me. I gave the first 2 books of Throne of Glass are like meh. And then I read Assassin's Blade, which is like pretty good. And then from there, I think everything else in that series was 5 stars. While I was reading Queen of Shadows, which I think is the 6th or 7th book, I think it's the 5th book. Queen of Shadows, while I was reading it, I said to myself, not out loud, is this the best book I've ever read in my entire life? I don't think it is, but it is up there. I loved it. I lived for Throne of Glass. And Crescent City is fine. I think I gave Crescent City 1 4 stars. I haven't read Crescent City 2 yet. I plan on it. But I liked it. Also, Court of Silver Flames, what a queen. There has been no book by Sarah J. Maas that I've given less than 3 stars to, and her series tend to start weaker for me and get stronger, which I think is like such a plus. Like, I would love that way more than a series that starts really strong and then peters out and is not so good from Blood and Ash. What would I love to see from her? Of course, she's working on Crescent City. We're excited about it. We've got a few more ACOTAR books. We're excited about those too. I would love to see a Throne of Glass style series. So like a big, epic, like Game of Thrones. Like when you think fantasy, this is what you think of. 8 books, 10 books long, chunkers, all of them, but in the adult world. And when I'm talking adult, I think people get like super fixated on like the sex scenes in a book, and like I just like could take them or leave them most of the time. But I think in Crescent City, Sarah J. Maas deals with heavier issues in a really strong way. I think she deals with like trauma and mental health in a way that's really like interesting and beautiful. I think she does beautifully in Crescent City. I think she also did a good job with Court of Silver Flames. I would love that kind of care and thought about like mental health and kind of how these actions affect these characters on like a deep emotional level brought into an epic fantasy series like Throne of Glass. Wouldn't that be stunning? Wouldn't that be gorgeous? Just an idea, Sarah. Take it if you want. Actually, like, please take it. I would pay you to take it. I gave you like literally nothing. Next. My beloved Taylor Jenkins Reid, who wrote my favorite book of all time, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I also gave 5 stars to Daisy Jones and the Six and Malibu Rising. Like, those 3 are amazing. I'm reading her backlist right now. I think I've read 2 of her books. I've read Maybe in Another Life and One True Loves. I think I gave both of those 4 stars. They're not as strong as her like current work, but they're still like very good, solid women's fiction pieces. There's nothing I've read from her that I didn't like. She's amazing. She's amazing. Of course, from her we have a new release coming out sometime next year, I believe. Or is it this summer? Are we getting a book this summer? Future Nichelle has some great news. Taylor Jenkins Reid's next novel, Carrie Soto Is Back, comes out August 30th. I don't know. I don't think it has a cover yet, and I can't remember the title. Something with a C. But it's the end of her like famous women quartet. They're like interconnected loosely, but it's not the same series. I consider them all standalones. And I'm like excited to see what she does after that. I have like no idea. For the other ones, like, what do I want to see Taylor Jenkins Reid do? Whatever Taylor wants to. I feel like Taylor is, like, way smarter than I could ever be. So, like, she can figure it out. And then my last favorite author is Gillian Flynn. This is an older one. This is the oldest one on the list. I read all 3 of Gillian Flynn's books when I was getting back into reading, like 2016 and 17. I think I read Gone Girl before the movie came out. So I may have read that. I probably read that in college, like 2014. I don't know. I've read all of Gillian Flynn's books, those 3. I've also read her, like, novella, but I can't remember that one's name. That one has a ghost in it, and that one's fun. But her thrillers are the top. Like, she's the best thriller writer, period. She, like, invented the genre as we know it currently, in my understanding of it. I don't read a ton of domestic thrillers anymore because I feel like they've gotten old. I would read whatever this woman put out. Gillian Flynn is a master of storytelling, and I, like, can't wait to see what she comes next. I, like, think her coming back to the thriller genre, which there's rumors that she's doing that, hopefully will, like, revitalize the genre and, like, kind of take things in a new direction, because I think she did, like, reinvent the genre with Gone Girl. And maybe that's just because I was ignorant before that, but I don't think so. I think that she, like, had a huge, profound impact on the genre. So I also went through and talked about, like, potential favorites. So these are people who have not reached the 3-book threshold, but have, like, 2 books, and I, like, see a potential for their next release to get them there. And our first girl is Rebecca Surley. I talked about her actually last video kind of a lot. I love her adult stuff. Not a fan of her young adult stuff. It's not terrible, but it's just not for me. But her adult stuff is brilliant. She wrote The Dinner List and In 5 Years, and she has a book that just came out, I think, called, like, One Italian Summer. I don't know. I'm very excited to read it. I love her books. They always make me weep. And I love a good crying book. So she has the potential to make the list. Next up, we have Miss Madeline Miller. The only things I've read from her are Circe's and Song of Achilles. I gave Song of Achilles 5 stars, and I think I gave Circe like 4.5 or 5 stars. I think she is a beautiful writer, and I'm not a big Greek retelling girl. That is not my genre, but she is a classicist, and she does these Greek myth retellings so stunningly, and I'm excited to see what she comes out with next. I've heard that it's a Hades and Persephone retelling, and I have been underwhelmed with the Hades and Persephone retellings I have read based on book talk recommendations, because mostly they are just, like, super trashy books, which, like, are a good time, but I would love, like, a literary take, you know? Okay. Next, we have Miss Britt Bennett. Miss Britt Bennett is stunning. I gave 5 stars to, or I think I gave The Vanishing Half 4.5, and I gave The Mothers 5 stars. I loved The Mothers. Not enough people talk about The Mothers by Britt Bennett. It is, I loved it. She is an amazing writer. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about what she's planning on next. I think her books tend to take her a little longer, which, like, understandable. They're masterpieces. But I'm excited to read whatever it is. I will read whatever she puts out. I think those are the only 2 books she has released. I think The Mothers was her debut, and The Vanishing Half was her second book. But I'm excited for whatever comes next. I think she's brilliant. And then one that is, like, on the fence, and, like, I think technically I could push it to a favorite author is Christina Lauren, and they're actually a pair of authors, but their books for me are, like, either hit or miss, and there haven't been enough hits that have been, like, true, like, hits, you know? There's only been 1 5-star that I've ever given them, and that is Love and Other Words, which is so good. Such a good romance. I've given 4.5 stars to The Soulmate Equation that I read last year, because I really loved it, and it just came at the right time, but it wasn't a strong 4.5. Like, if I reread it, probably I might lower it. So they're, like, right on the edge. I love their books. They're a little bit more emotional, like Love and Other Words. And I'm less interested in their books like The Unhoneymooners. Although it's, like, a great time, it's not, like, favorite author status. And same thing with, like, My Favorite Half Night Stand, that Christmas one they released. Like, they put out a lot of books, and I enjoy all of them and will continue reading them, but I don't tend to, like, love them in a way that makes me want to, like, make them a favorite. But I think it could happen. They're, like, right on the line. They're one of my favorite romance writers. Same thing with Talia Hibbert. I've only read her Brown Sisters trilogy, and I loved the second one, and I liked the first and the third one. I think it's hard for romance authors to, like, break into that like favorite author world for me, because a lot of times those stories are kind of, I like hate to say forgettable because I love romance books and I would never want to like disparage them. But they do tend to be books that don't stick with me quite as long. There needs to be like a little bit more depth there and like pack a little bit more of an emotional punch like Emily Henry's books do for me to consider a favorite. Anyway, those are my favorite authors and my kind of thoughts on favorite authors and my hopes for my favorite authors moving forward. Let me know who your favorite author is, or favorite authors. If I had to just pick one favorite, who would it be? My gut reaction is Emily Henry because, as I've mentioned, I have like a weird like duck imprinting on her. Like I was a baby duckling. I think it was because I was starting to edit my first novel when I read Beach Read, and I was like, I want my characters to sound like this, and I did do like I studied Beach Read, so maybe that's it. And I also love her presence on social media. I don't know, me and Emily Henry just have a connection. But if I was being honest, my favorite author is probably Taylor Jenkins Reid, because Evelyn. Ugh, Evelyn. She's so good. Anyway, I will talk to you later. Subscribe if you want to. Maybe I will be your favorite author. I do have a book coming out next fall. I don't know how often I should mention it. You can't do anything with it yet because it is still a book baby. I haven't edited it or anything yet. It is still a little fetus of a book, but it will be coming out eventually. Coming to a bookstore near you. If you have any suggestions based on my favorite authors, if you have some people or books you think I would really enjoy reading, leave those down below. That would be really helpful and excellent. But besides that, I will talk to you in my next video. Have a great one.